Good evening. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe in Buzz Radio Networks, where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes, and we are also brought to you by Bet Online, where you can get the latest odds, lines, and matchups for all sporting events. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your phone. So head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. And remember to use our promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we are joined via the Metro Lumber Hotline, Arkansas women's gymnastics coach, Jordyn Wieber. Thank you again for coming on to preview the season. How has preparing for the season been? And of course, getting to prepare for another meet in Bud Walton Arena this year.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Oh my gosh, it feels like preseason has been so long, but actually really, really good. We started, back at the end of August, kind of gearing up and building strength, building our routines, upping difficulty, kind of figuring out what our roster can look like for this season. And the team is ready. We've got a lot of great talent. I would say we've got the most depth we've ever had as a program this year. Part of that was seen at our gym back preview, where we competed a really strong 9 athletes on every event. That wasn't even everybody. So the team is ready. They're fired up. This is a really competitive team that we have this year, which I'm excited about. It's been a lot of fun. So we're just excited to get out there Friday night and compete again. We've got 3 meets in Barnhill Arena and our last 2 home meets in Bud Walton, as you mentioned. So it's going to be a great season for Arkansas gymnastics.
Now, is this going to be kind of like in kind of football terms where, 3 going to be the max? Are you still trying to keep that home feel of Barnhill and the fan engagement, or are you trying to kind of have a more split inside of Bud Walton, depending on the crowd, or is this just something that will stay at 3?
Well, I'm always torn with that question because, we obviously love Barnhill. It has so much charm, so much history inside that building. But, as a program, it very much feels like, we're outgrowing it a little bit with our crowd sizes. I mean, last year we packed over 11,000 in Bud Walton for our Florida meet. So I will say the goal is eventually all of our meets are held in Bud Walton. If we're lucky enough to do that, that's sort of the vision that I've had since I got here. That's the vision that Hunter shares as well. And we have his support in that. So we're making our way towards that goal. But for this season, we're going to do 3 in Barnhill, 2 in Bud Walton, and see how that goes. And then, when they look at renovating Bud Walton Arena, I think that will be about the time that we start to see that shift.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We every year we talk. There's more meets being added, and that excitement of is it kind of a Hunter's like, hey, you get the crowd, we will facilitate you in Bud Walton Arena. And it seems like every time you have a meet inside of Bud Walton Arena, the fans do not ever disappoint. And I really want to emphasize on that, especially when you're sharing it with women's basketball, men's basketball, and then to have people come out and support your program the way they do. What does that mean for, what y'all have been able to do, and then the talent you have on your roster?
Yeah, well, it's just been incredible every single year. I'm always surprised at the continued growth and support of our fan base, our season ticket holders. We were just talking about it today. When I got here, there were 700 season ticket holders for gymnastics, and right now we're sitting at over 2,300 for the season.
Awesome.
So that just says a little bit about the growth, and I just am so grateful to the fan base for continuing to show up. And I really take the job of creating an environment and an experience that fans will love, as well as preparing our team to come in and have a great competition that fans are excited to come watch. And we've done a really great job at winning more meets, but also being in the fight for every single meet that we're competing in inside our arena. So I think that's helped, and the fans love to support our team. I'm just so grateful for that.
And one of those meets, being able to, when we talked about last year about being able to compete with the other teams in the SEC, Now you're
Mhm.
beating other teams in the SEC and being able to beat a program like LSU. What does that do overall for your program? I mean, you've already established yourself as a program in the SEC, so there, we can wipe that check mark off the. What
Mhm.
is the next step when it comes to what does that do for your program, showing that you can compete with the best in the SEC week in and week out?
Well, I think it's a huge confidence booster for our team, first and foremost. That they, at the end of the season last year, one of their favorite memories was being inside Barnhill with our first sold out crowd ever inside that arena and beating LSU. And I think it really gave them that confidence, like, we can compete with anyone in the SEC. And they very much believe that. And, they know they've got the talent. It's just about doing it when it matters most. And so, you how it is in the SEC. Any team can be competitive on any night. It's pretty much a bloodbath every single weekend. That's what I love about it, and our team loves that as well. They really can't relax on any given week. It keeps us on our toes. It keeps us wanting to get better and better every year as a program. I think we've continued to do that, and hopefully this year having some really great competitions against those SEC opponents. That's our goal.
Yeah, looking over and I stopped counting. I needed your help when we're looking at your opponents, and dang near every opponent you have is ranked in the top 25. How much of that does the team look at? I mean, are they used to playing against that amount of competition week in and week out, or is it something that you kind of have to, especially with the newcomers, that hey, look, this is the SEC, this is what we expect, and even your non-conference opponents are ranked.
Mhm.
What goes into that building that tough of a schedule?
Well, to be honest, in our conference, a lot of our meets are just conference decided. So I get handed the schedule, and then we sort of fill in with some non-conference opponents. And in our sport of gymnastics, our game plan doesn't change depending on the opponent for the most part. If we're competing twice in one weekend, then we might play with some lineup choices and rest a few who aren't able to compete twice in a weekend. But for the most part, we want to put out our best lineups every opportunity that we get and maximize that score potential, no matter who the opponent is. But they do, get fired up for certain teams. One of the awesome things about our schedule this year is we're bringing in Oklahoma, who's the number one team, the reigning national champions, in Bud Walton Arena in March. And they're also joining our conference next year. So we're going to see them there as well as another time during the season. So having those really great opponents, it helps our team feel what it's going to feel like in the postseason at a regionals. And we're going to see the best of the best, and hopefully we're one of them. So it helps our team stay competitive and sort of feel what it's going to feel like towards the back half of the season.
And I've asked, the swim coach, I've asked the golf coach, when you're playing tennis coach, when you're playing international talent beyond college, and you being an Olympic athlete, when you look at a schedule and you look at it as this is the SEC, this is the NCAA, but I'm preparing you to go up against the best in the world. This is small potatoes when it comes to, I'm trying to prepare you for the U.S. national team. What
Mhm.
goes in that mindset of I'm preparing you to be great?
Mhm. Well, it's really all about building their confidence. At this level, you've got other programs with former national team members, former Olympians, but college gymnastics has a way of sort of leveling the playing field because everybody starts from a 10-0 start value. And it's really all about being able to handle the pressure, handle the nerves, and go out there and perform your best routine when it matters most. And that's all about confidence. That's all about having the routines under your belt and preparing in a way where you can go up and say, you know what, anytime, any place, I'm going to nail this routine. And that's something we've really, really addressed this preseason, is preparing them in a way that makes them sort of unshakable, if you will. And that was something that was a goal after last season. We had some moments of greatness, but we had some inconsistencies as well. And a lot of it just had to do with handling pressure and those really hard moments on the fourth event. So we've really dialed in on that preparation piece in this preseason, and we've got some really talented, really competitive freshmen. I will say they love the pressure, so I'm super excited about that. And like I said, gymnastics in college, it really sort of levels that playing field, and our team really believes that we can beat any of those SEC programs.
And when we talk about the freshmen coming in, and you had a freshman last year, when we talked about going to Nebraska and you didn't know how many you're going to have in certain rotations, and then you come across Lauren Williams and what she done last year as a freshman, how much confidence does that give those freshmen coming in? Like, look, this was done last year. We have a girl on our squad that she was able to succeed and really show herself amongst one of the greatest in the country. How does that help the freshman coming in and help you as a coach, knowing that it's a little bit easier developing a freshman when you've seen what can happen with a freshman coming out, as in
Yeah.
Lauren?
Yeah, well, Lauren is a perfect example of an athlete who comes in every day with um, a great attitude, a consistent work ethic, listens to her coaches, does everything that we ask her to do, and it paid off. And so we're able to really utilize her as that example for not just the freshmen, but the whole team, and show that, you do everything right and you listen to your coaches and you work hard and you have a great attitude, and you can make it to nationals. And one of the things that I appreciate about Lauren is that she came back after nationals and said to us coaches, hey, I want to use everything I learned being on that national stage and watching all the other teams that I rotated with, and what it took to get there. I want to bring all those things back to our program and figure out how to help us get there next year. And so, we've really positioned her as a leader this year, and she's done a great job. And our freshmen, I believe, every year they get a little bit more talented and a little more feisty, more competitive. And so, I'm excited to see what our freshmen this year can accomplish.
And before we go into the roster that we have up on the screen, I'd really like to know from a standpoint of just the popularity of gymnastics, how much it's grown since we've started talking and you've been here at Arkansas, and really what last year's done. And we're seeing it all across the board in women's athletes just blow up in popularity. You've seen it in volleyball, women's basketball. Now we're seeing breaking records in gymnastics. How much that
Mhm.
popularity is helping you seeing now freshmen coming in and being so successful?
I think it's awesome to see, really showing our team that they're a part of such a cool time in women's athletics, especially in the sport of gymnastics, and just the exposure that we're getting on TV now. It's so exciting. I don't know. I think, our freshmen this year, they've got great personalities, great stories, and even better gymnastics. So I'm excited for the fans to meet them at this first meet this weekend. I think they're going to be really excited about them, and who knows, they might be in the all around, they might be in 2, 3 events. It just sort of depends on how these first few meets go and how they handle the pressure. But it's an exciting time to be a part of the sport of college gymnastics because it continues to grow and grow.
And let's break down, the roster. Who are some
Mhm.
of the ones that, one, the freshmen coming in that we need to watch out for? Talk about your transfers that have come in and, of course, made an impact at their prior school. And then we can end it on your returning starters and the returning rotation.
Mhm. Yeah, so freshmen, I would say for all the fans, keep an eye on the names Priscilla Park and Haley Klein. They are ready to go. Priscilla, she's got potential to compete in the all around for us. We're really focused on managing some previous injuries that she's had and keeping her healthy, but she's ready to go on every event, and she will be anchoring our beam lineup, which means she goes last, which is a really hard position to be in general, but especially as a freshman, she performs the best under the highest levels of pressure. So keep an eye on that name, Haley Klein. She's got potential to compete on all four as well. I think this weekend in our first meet, we're gonna put her in a position to try some things out and see how she scores and go from there. But she's incredibly fun to watch and talented and powerful. We have one transfer. Her name's Serena Linton. She's a grad transfer from University of Arizona. We really recruited her for balance beam. She competed at the national championship a couple of years ago for that event and became an All-American as well. So she's got that natural beam talent, ability that is really hard to teach. It's hard to recruit as well. So we're excited to have her at the end of that beam lineup as well, with a lot of experience. I think that was something that Nora Flatley brought to our roster last year, that Serena is also bringing on that particular event. She's also she trains every event. You may see her on vault or bars as well. And as far as returners, I mean, obviously Lauren Williams, we talked about her a little bit. She's looking really great on three events: beam, floor, and vault. Frankie Price is in a really great place as well. She's a fan favorite of many who watch our team. Her floor routine is next level performance quality. We've adjusted some of her tumbling, and she's more consistent than she's ever been, and more healthy than she's ever been this year. So keep an eye on her. Let's see, we've got Leah Smith, who is back and just looking awesome as well. So lots of great returners who are going to contribute in multiple places. But like I said, we've got depth this year. We've got about 10 people on every event who are ready to compete if we need them. So it's going to be fun to strategize those lineups and figure out what is the highest score potential of this team.
And looking at the roster, I see 3 seniors. So again, you have a lot of returning, but going into this season that you're not going to be losing a lot when it comes to. So how much fun is that going to be, knowing that you can really develop and build this program, having freshmen coming in, having sophomores coming in, redshirt sophomores that are really ready to be leaders. I mean, again, like, how rare is it in the world of gymnastics that a sophomore wants to be the leader of your team?
hmm It's rare, and it's rare that we as coaches look at that and go, we're going to position this person to be a vocal leader, and if you have to really rely on those people. And we talk to our leaders all the time. You have to not just be willing to say the right things, but have the actions to back them up as well. So I think at the end of the last season, we calculated, and about 75% of our lineups were from underclassmen spots. And so that's really exciting for the future, obviously. And then, next year coming in as freshmen, we've got a world champion and national JO national champion as well. So it is really exciting to think about the growth of this program from year to year. And, even, someone like Jensen Scalzo, who this is her senior year. She's just been so steady for us on bar. So I'm looking for her to have, one final great season as well.
And when you talk about bringing in a graduate, I don't think we've covered this yet. When we were talking about last year with Nora, and now this year, in football and basketball, you're dealing with offensive coordinators and offensive schemes. When you get a transfer, what are you looking for into? I mean, how hard is it to kind of transition them into your lineup, your roster, compared to how we compare it to other sports?
Yeah. So, there are some really great parts about having transfers, one of them being a lot of times they have already competitive experience and a maturity about them. I mean, that's what Serena brings to the table. She's got this maturity about her. This is her 5th year in college gymnastics. And she's really developed she really developed at Arizona to be the gymnast she is today. And one thing I love about transfers is they have just incredible perspective, because they've seen another gymnastics program. They've seen things done a different way, and they're able to come in and look at what we have here and go, guys, this is awesome, and have that perspective and really provide our team that's never seen it anywhere else with, okay, you guys have it really, really good, and things like our brand new locker room and things like that. So that's been great. And just learning about their tendencies and the training styles, how they've trained leading up to this point, what has made them successful, and not wanting to change a lot of those things, but also trying to figure out how do we make them that much better? How can we capitalize on what they've already built and make it even better this year? So that's been the journey we've been on with all of our transfers that we've brought in. And I think it looks a little different in gymnastics than it does in other sports. Because transferring is not as common, but it is really great. I mean, we've had incredible transfers over the last 3-4 seasons that have added so much value to this program.
And we'll end it on this. You touched on your new locker room, getting to host in Bud Walton Arena. One, what does that say about the athletic department as a whole, buying into women's sports, but also how rewarding is it knowing that, all right, if we do said things, we will be rewarded for it with locker rooms, new equipment, being able to play or host in bigger venues?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you said it. It really is an investment in our program. It really says a lot about the belief that Hunter has in our student athletes and in our coaching staff. He continues to invest in our program and in so many ways. One of them being, upgrading our facility with our locker room. I mean, everybody knows that it's amazing for our student athletes that are here right now, but it's also great for recruiting as well, being able to compete with the other SEC programs with our facilities. Our locker room is fabulous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then, things like competing in Bud and just having that vision and allowing us the opportunity to really step it up and fill that arena. I see it as a great challenge that I, love to take advantage of, and just am so grateful to the athletic department for continuing to believe in us, believe in our athletes and our women. And, they continue to work even harder with those opportunities as well. So I'm really grateful.
Well, Jordyn, again, thank you so much for coming on to preview the season, and always best of luck to you and the squad this year, and hopefully get to come see y'all inside Bud Walton Arena this year.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Well, that was Coach Jordyn Wieber of the Arkansas Gymnastics team, and you can see them in Barn Hill Arena on January 12th as they take on Georgia. And then they travel to Alabama on the 19th, and then they're back home against Auburn on the 26th. So 2 opportunities in this month to really, get a chance to look at this year's team. And again, with having Lauren back, and you're having a youthful but veteran team, you're not having to rely a lot on transfers and building this program and having new facilities. Really a lot to look forward to with this program. And again, being able to beat the likes of LSU and playing against the best and competing against the best in the SEC. And it's funny how we always talk about the SEC and what it's like playing in the SEC. Every sport we can say, well, what's it like playing in the SEC on any given week? Because it seems like with the conference realignments and, football, as much as you want to, it's popular as it is, football's having an underrated kind of effect on the rest of college athletics. You look at the addition of OU. We'll take OU for a second. Look what they're doing to the women's athletics coming to the SEC. We see football, but you're bringing in the top ranked gymnastics and softball team to this conference. Then you're bringing in Texas, another star-studded team when it comes to basketball and softball. So not only are we getting to see the basketball and the men's side of it and baseball, you're getting to see the full realm of what just 2 teams, and if more teams join the SEC, it's going to be fun year-round for the men's and women's athletics as a whole, and it's going to be very, very exciting to see. Adam just jumped on. How's it going, man?
It's going. Just another day.
Just jumped on. What we're going to do, we are going to take a quick commercial break. After the commercial break, we're going to, of course, talk about the breaking news of the day, get Adam's opinion, my opinion on it, and we'll talk about the GOAT, Nick Saban, ending his career at Alabama and retiring, and we'll talk about that after the break. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need. Whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck, plus our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Smith. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to get the results you deserve. Contact the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company, located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark. Our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. And want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast. And Adam, I don't know when you heard the news that kind of shattered the college football world. We all knew it was kind of coming, but I didn't expect it this year. What was your thoughts when you initially heard that Saban was, stepping away from Alabama?
Well, it was shortly after the news came out. I was at work and I happened to glance down at my phone, and that was the first thing that popped up. Was actually like I had just opened up my phone and went to Twitter or X, and then your text came through, and I was like, "Oh man, here we go." And I mean, it had been a matter of seconds that it had been put out there. So I think we all knew it was coming. It's probably sooner rather than later. It's just still a shock to see it actually unfold like it has. There was a speculation earlier in the year with the property that he had bought in Florida, and I mean he's a coach that was making over $11 million a year, so that wasn't too far fetched. It's not a far away from Tuscaloosa, but it's crazy to see it actually happen.
Yeah, he's going to join his good buddy down there, Gus, in Florida. Yeah. But first reaction was, a scene where it was reported by Chris Lowe, but of course you have to check, make sure that it wasn't a burner account because he don't have a check mark by his name. I know that doesn't really mean much, nowadays what it used to, but then I looked at his following. Look, and this is the crazy, even for Chris Lowe. He's already gained 5,000 followers, and that tweet has been viewed 17 million times in 2 hours.
In 2 hours, yeah.
In 2 hours. I mean, that's crazy. The fact that even someone like Chris Lowe breaking that news garners, I mean, of course it's the biggest news, but I just thought, we talked about before the season of, everybody thought the dynasty was over. The dynasty's over. And I wasn't ready to say it was over. Because one, he's always lost and then bounced back. And other than, one bad play, look, I mean, that's the thing. We can end up put this kind of in a category years down the road. What happens if Jalen Milroe makes that cut and he goes into the end zone? What happens if, the fact that they end up beating Michigan and play for a national championship? Does he still step away? I think so, but it's still one of those things that you'll think, because I think if he, like you said, the puzzle, follow the crumbs. If he bought property, if he won, okay, I can go up. But then I think he also knows. And look, Kirby's seeing it, Dabo's seeing it, Saban's seeing it. A lot of these guys that have had that stranglehold on the world of college football, there's more, whether you want to believe it or not. Now it's going to expand, but this 12-team playoff on top of the NIL and transfer portal, we're about to see a war. And it's been controlled by the SEC. One, Saban retiring. Two, a Big Ten school winning the national championship. It's almost like holes in the dam are starting to bust, and it's about to be. I'm not saying that the SEC is not going to still dominate in college football, but you're seeing the fact that it's going to be more of an open market. It's going to be more of maybe every other year we're seeing a Big Ten team win it, or does Clemson bounce back? Florida State bounce back and, have that vengeance of going to the national championship. I think we're ready to see a new landscape of college football.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go. I figured this year would leave him maybe with a bad taste in his mouth the way it ended. Obviously, I think coaches want to go out on the highest note possible, which is national championship. But with the and I'm not saying that Saban by any means is backing away from the landscape that's changing in college football, but it's one of those things that I'm sure may have a little bit to do with when the time was right for him.
Yeah.
Is just not having to mess with the onslaught that's upcoming.
Well, yeah, and his age. We put a poll out, and everybody's talking about the age. He's got nothing left to prove. A lot, was it? It's both the NIL. I think a lot of things went into it, and yeah, he along with everybody, he don't have anything else to prove.
Mm-hmm.
He's already cemented himself as the greatest of all time. But the fact that having to chase players to come out of high school, and then on top of that, having to keep your players because your second and third string linebacker can be, pursued by anybody else in college football. We've seen it. We've seen, bench players or reserves from Alabama and Georgia go into other schools and thrive. But then again, it's almost like those same schools when there was no cap on your scholarship players or there was no cap on your roster. You sit there and, Bear Bryant would get this kid from Arkansas or Texas knowing he would never play, but he didn't want anybody else having him. You have that stranglehold on college football knowing I've got 85 scholarship players. We're the greatest program. I'm the greatest coach. No other team has a chance. Now it's where show me the money. And everybody can sit there and say, well, it is a different era. But I think we're going to see better football. I think, especially now, you've got 12 teams that now can compete for a national championship when it comes to the playoff. You're not going to see opt-outs. You're not going to see as many, but you're also going to see more schools that are now going to be able to build their programs because they're able to, say like Arkansas or Oklahoma State, or you go to these middle-of-the-pack schools in each conference. If they can prove, because we look at ROI, return of interest.
Mm-hmm.
If we can prove we can get our program to the college football playoff and we can start building a program, you're going to be able to get better players. You're going to be able to get better money for all these schools.
Yeah, today I was kind of going back to, I guess, what's happened since Alabama lost and some of the players that they've had enter the transfer portal. I was like kind of going back with maybe they knew beforehand that Saban was going to be leaving. And then it was, or did they? Did they not? Because, they may have just felt like they needed to go elsewhere. But, reading what I read this afternoon or this evening that, he told the players earlier today, which I have no reason not to believe, it's crazy to even that we're sitting here actually talking about it. So now the speculation, of course, for the next however long is going to be who's the next coach.
Look, man, it's almost like I'm from a small town at Ozark, and it's almost like that city job comes open or that electric company job comes open. That position that 80 people are going to be applying for. This is the cream of the crop that we haven't seen in a very, very long time come open. So now you got even the likes of someone like Kirby Smart who's built something at Georgia. You got Dabo Swinney who built something at Clemson. You have Lane Kiffin. You got three coaches right here in the SEC and the ACC. Not saying they were considering it or whatever, but they're being mentioned. Then you go outside. Who's the up and comers? Who, like, you got the Oregon head coach who's said he would never leave Oregon. Well, I was taught in chemistry class for every rule there's an exception.
Yeah.
I think if anybody would turn this job down that knew that they can develop and bring this up, you'd be dumb to turn it down. Now, again, there's a lot of people who these are some big shoes to fill. How can you come in one, you're following Bear Bryant and Nick Saban? That's a double whammy. You know, it's hard enough to follow a head coach like who's going to be the next Clemson coach, who's going to be the next Georgia coach, who's going to be the next Ole Miss coach. You know, you got big shoes to fill. Now put that on steroids, and that's the program, and that's the job.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get $9 million.
No.
I'd be interested to see. I'd have to really look over the list of potential candidates, but right now, I guess I'm still trying to process that he is retiring because look, I was thinking about that. I was going to Walmart today of like when you get old, and I'm 41 now. You know, there's no more Tiger, there's no more Jordan, there's no more Manning, Peyton, all these people that we watched. How many of them, other than LeBron, how many of them are really still playing from who we watched growing up or into our early adulthood? And now Saban's gone. You're like, you know, there's not that many people left. So you talk about feeling old. It's like you see these people, players and coaches, stepping away from the game. But, you know, I'd have to really take a look at it. But I have no idea who is ready to take those reins or who Alabama wants.
Yeah. I mean, looking at it, I think a lot's going to start with Alabama boosters, president, everybody. You know, are you going to give any leeway to the standard that's been set? Because, you know, a lot of times they looked at a 10-win season as not good enough, or it was a down year for them, if you will. Or are you going to expect somebody to come in and that's the bare minimum is that 10 wins? Or are you going to go back to the Mike Price and Mike Shula days and, you know, potentially be firing your coach after 1 to 3 seasons because they can't get past 8-9 wins? You know, there's a lot of questions that go in it because it could be great for the next coach, or it could be something that it doesn't pan out over 2 to 3 seasons and they're out looking for another job. I was looking at some of the, you know, the potentials that everybody's talking about. And Kirby Smart's name's obviously going to come up, but I look at him and what he's done and is doing at Georgia, and he's making his own at Georgia that I don't see him going to he's basically doing what Nick Saban did at Alabama, but he's doing it at Georgia, you know? So I don't see him hopping over, you know, Lane Kiffin. He is doing what he wants to do in Ole Miss, and he's doing a great job at it. And he doesn't have necessarily the people from above or the boosters telling him how to do things. He's getting to do it how he wants to do things. So, you know, my money's kind of on Lanning or even somebody that I know is on some people's lists, but you could see maybe a Mike Norvell from Florida State.
Yeah. Man, that would now I'll say this, and I know people's got it's business, but would that not be like kind of a Kevin Durant kind of move? I mean, it almost could be. You got passed up for Bama, then you go be the Bama head coach. I think that would be crazy, but in the landscape we are in now, nothing surprises me, and nothing, and I wouldn't say offend, but nothing like I don't get mad at anything like I used to. Like, a dude wants to go to Alabama, let him go. Players are doing it, coaches are doing it. They're hopping around. Hey, if they feel like they're a better fit at this program, so be it. But I think that would be one of the craziest, ironic things if he was the head coach. But yeah, I don't think that, you know, 5 years or 4 years ago, they probably said Dabo out of Clemson, but I don't think he's good enough to be that head coach. Because he has the same mindset as Saban. I think you'd be making a lateral move mindset wise, not career wise, because of course nobody's going to touch that. But somebody has the same ideology of how they feel about the transfer portal, how they feel about NIL. I think that's a wash. He's going to stay at Clemson, and I think he's just too stubborn. I think he feels like he's going to win another national championship and is not. I don't see them. I think it's going to be, and this is what we can get on this subject of too, and this is going to be our question of the day tomorrow. Who in the SEC benefits the most off of this decision?
I mean, I almost have to go directly with Auburn.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, some of the texts that I was sent afterwards and whatnot. I mean, I everybody obviously is looking at it from the Arkansas fan standpoint as Arkansas. I mean, me and a buddy were talking because he was trying to think back to the last time that Arkansas beat Alabama, which was 2006 in the double overtime. But I'm just going directly with in-state and saying Auburn. But also, I guess, got to look at too is Georgia. Because with Alabama being with no more divisions and them essentially usually being 1 and 2, that Kirby Smart's not going to have to deal with Nick Saban.
I'm going LSU. I'm going someone from the West because, yes, LSU's made it to the SEC championship. They've got a national championship. Auburn's been there. Texas A&M's, been a competitor. But I go LSU because of Brian Kelly, and also the fact of if you lose that conference game to Alabama, you're already behind Bama or even with Bama when it comes to who makes it to Atlanta. They're out of the way. So I would suggest LSU because, yes, they lost 3 games this year and ended up playing Wisconsin. But you don't have – you talk about sharks smelling blood in the water. You don't have that big gauntlet of Bama to worry about, and you might have to play Texas or OU, which OU is not as strong.
Mm-hmm.
But never mind, I'm switching that up. I forgot about the whole because that slipped my mind. Texas. They're coming into the new SEC, and they don't have to worry about Alabama. And I know that there's no more divisions, but still yet, that's one big team that you don't have to worry about. And you look at the landscape of the SEC, we've seen it this year. I mean, you have your top dogs, but I think you put Texas against Alabama and Georgia and OU.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the ones that benefit the most.
And there could still be a couple wrenches thrown in this too, because, I've already seen Sarkisian's name thrown out there as one of the potential candidates. And then also we got to think about, there's a lot of writing on the wall that Michigan is going to be without Jim Harbaugh here soon, going back to the NFL if that does happen. And there's been speculation and talk that Brian Kelly jumped ship from LSU to Michigan. So there's, that I think Saban kind of starts this domino effect that we're about to see, especially with the NFL vacancies that are popping up. The season's done. We could see some more fall here pretty soon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't know who's going to be at what school to say who benefits the most. But I would honestly, and the thing is, it's weird because you look at Kirby, he's at the top of the mountain right now that, Saban steps away. Then you have Sarkisian. Well, he just made it to the college football playoff. I mean, I'm looking, guys, we talk about what do you have to prove? Well, if you're doing, unless they're going to pay him the $8-9 million that they paid or the $10 million, I don't know, because that's the new market. Look what they did for Jimbo. Look what they did for Brian Kelly. It's just the fact that when you're built what you have at the program you're at, I don't see making that move to Alabama because I don't think it's the Bama that it was 5 years ago because of the new NIL, because of the new Bama will always be Bama, but it's not going to be as easy as it was because look, you look at all the players that leave from Bama, but who do they get in? They have to solely rely on who they get out of high school. And then you're going with the fact that you're switching coordinators every other year, whatnot. Now that's not as proficient as it was a couple years ago, but the fact that it's not the Bama of the old. And I think Saban's seen the writing on the wall. And I'm not saying it takes anything from his legacy or the legacy of the Alabama program. It will always be the best program. I don't think anybody will overtake Bama as the best program in college football. I don't think anybody will ever touch Nick Saban's national championships. I don't see that. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. Not in my lifetime. I don't see it.
And I think that's going to a lot come down to what is Alabama, president boosters, et cetera. What are they going to accept after this with Nick Saban, with their next coaching hire, and that's going to probably draw a lot of questions to who wants that job. Because just bring we'll just use Sarkisian as the example, and like you said, bringing up with them getting to the college football playoff this year. I mean, and them coming to the SEC and what he's turned around in Texas. There's a lot. Sorry to put. If he were to leave for Bama, he's got a lot shorter leash than what he has in Texas. In Texas, I think there's a little bit of leeway there for the down years and whatnot. And in Alabama, it's not there, or at least not at the moment. It may take the next head coach, and if that doesn't work out, the next head coach for them to realize, okay, we're back to the 8-9 wins. But there's a long time between now and then.
Yeah, and the fact that, let's just be real, there's more money in Texas when it comes to NIL more money than Bama. I mean, that's the thing. I think a lot of it, and of course, when you see players leaving from Bama to go to those schools, well, that was the first chink in the armor. That was the chink in the armor of, well, kids aren't just going to Bama anymore because of the national championships and the nostalgia. That's another thing that separates my generation, your generation, from this next generation. Nostalgia is not what it used to be. Nostalgia is a fading word, just like we're fading. They want to see money. It's the new way. What deals can I get? You're seeing guys that aren't hardly getting any playing time at schools have significant NIL deals. You're seeing a kid let's go back to Texas. Because of his name, he's second, third on the depth chart. And he's probably the richest player on that team. That's where we're at with the landscape of college athletics. So, again, I mean, you look at, Arch. He could have went to any school and made the amount of money. He could not play it down and make the money that he's making. It's just who capitalizes the most. What will we see now? That again, and the thing is, and the reason why it's hard to pick Georgia is, I think with to win a national championship, and we've seen it, it's going to take an elite quarterback. And one thing I really loved about watching the national championship was, man, the run game of Michigan won them that national championship. I mean, it was a dog fight, and just watching Penix Jr., sit there and throw and have distress. It was like you're playing against, that just showed you just everybody talks about the sign stealing and what they did on offense. And they did better when all that was out of the way than they did during that whole scandal.
Yeah, I'd only watched, a little bit of Michigan this season. It was a night and day. Well, Michigan's defense was, still stepped up against Alabama and then against Washington. But the offense, McCarthy, his poise against Washington was night and day, in my opinion. He made the runs when he needed to make the runs. He made the pass, he got the passes when he just made the plays that needed to be made in that moment. And so, it was, I know a lot of people were kind of dogging him for, having a mental health coach on the sideline. And I'm just like, if that's a part of his game, so be it. If that's how he gets his competitive edge, so be it.
I mean, it's like the guy, meditating and stuff. It's, you meditate, you got to do what you got to do. But the fact too is they had two, All-American in that game. They were playing like both their running backs were playing like both of them had 2 touchdowns each, I believe. That's, again, we're not used to seeing that when it comes to smash mouth football. And it's funny, because at the beginning of the year, this is how full circle this college football season went. Beginning of the year, I stated, did Texas end the dynasty of Alabama? And now did Michigan, two teams outside the SEC. We're talking about the battle with Georgia and LSU and Alabama. always battling, and it was two teams from outside of the SEC that kind of just finally, I guess, they could claim which one will claim better, which one really ended his career
Yeah.
at Alabama. But I think a lot of it is age, NIL, transfer portal, plus, you throw in the fact he just didn't have anything left to prove. But I'll tell you what, it's going to make for a very exciting football season next year. And who the hell's Paul Feinbaum going to talk about? It's just,
Oh yeah.
And what more fitting that the SEC on CBS is going away the year he decides to step away from the call. It's all these dominoes that you can look back, but like, okay, it all makes sense now.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even like you're talking about with the dominoes and TV networks and whatnot. Now Fox having the Big Ten, they had Washington and Michigan in that game since Washington's moving to the Big Ten. So,
and then you got the poor ACC playing their games in the CW.
Yeah,
I mean,
that baffles me still.
I just, man, like it's as much as I want to be a hoorah guy, I can't get on the Danny Cannell train and be that big of a ACC homer. But man, it's just I guess I'll have to get the CW Plus next year.
That's I just when I hear CW, I just think of teen dramas, and so football is not on the cards.
I think of Dawson's Creek, and then the lineup they have with Steve Harvey show, Wayne's Brothers, Jamie Foxx show. I mean, it's just you see all that, and then it's now, after Dawson's Creek, here comes Clemson versus Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
But that will do it for this episode of the Hog Talk podcast. Again, be sure to tune in Sunday as we recap all things Arkansas sports every Sunday night here. Catch us on YouTube. We're starting to put a little bit more content on our Instagram and TikTok pages. Yeah, I converted my page to the Hog Talk TikTok page. So all the graphics and content that we make visually for our Facebook page and Twitter, you can now go follow us on TikTok. We're going to start putting out more content there as well. For Bet Online, Arkansas Brewing Company, again, presented to you by Metters Lumber Company for the weekly women's sports report. I know we kind of broke away from that the schedule when it comes, but when news happens like this, we got to talk about it. But we will talk to you on Sunday.